Hi, my name is Patrick, and in this video I would like to show you an example which demonstrates you how you can use arc42 in combination with the C4 model and the documentation as code technique. You see here my repository on GitHub with this software architecture documentation starter. And this starter repository has a lot of great technologies and techniques in it. The first great technique is arc42 or the arc42 architecture documentation template. This template provides you best practice structure of your next software architecture documentation. Then the next technique is the C4 model. C4 model is an abstraction first approach to diagramming software architecture. Then the structurizer DSL is a language to describe the C4 model of the software system. Then the structurizer CLI is a command line utility, and we use here the structurizer CLI to export the plant2ml export the plant2ml diagrams from the C4 model, which is described in the structurized DSL. Then ASCII-doc is the format to write software architecture documentation. Then ASCII-doctor is the generator of the target representations of the software architecture documentation, which is written here in ASCII-doc. Then the doc toolchain is kind of a wrapper around all these tools and techniques and provides you tasks to automate the generation of your software architecture documentation. Then Kroki is a service to generate your diagrams, which are described in a textual format as diagrams as code. And the ADR tools is the utility to generate and manage your architecture decision records. That's all about the great technologies which are used here in this starter project. One point here is, which I would like to recommend you, is the Ultimate Guide to Software Architecture Documentation. That's a blog post that I've written and published on workingsoftware.dev, and it describes, or this blog post describes, the whole story behind. And as you see, it starts here with the question, why should we document software architecture? Probably a good read here. And yeah, if you're not interested here in this blog post, but in the start project, I now will switch to Visual Studio Code, where I show you how you can use this starter example project for your next software architecture documentation. So welcome here in Visual Studio Code. First of all, I would like to show you or recommend you two extensions in the context of technical documentation, or in particular here the software architecture documentation. First of all, it's the ASCII-doc. If you're looking for the ASCII-doc extension, you will find here ASCII-doc, and these extensions provides you rich language support for ASCII-doc. Beside of the syntax highlighting, it gives you the possibility to preview your content. I can show you this shortly here in the README, which is also written in ASCII-doc, which will, by the way, also support on GitHub natively. If you take a look at the repos in the web, it will be rendered perfectly here. Yeah, here is the ASCII-doc based README, and you see here on the top right this preview possibility, and now you get the preview of this ASCII-doc based documentation here. Yeah, this is pretty cool. Then the second recommendation here is, if you are looking for C4, you will find the C4 DSL extension, and this extension helps you in combination with the structurizer DSL. I have also here the structurizer DSL, which has the ending .dsl, the bank PLC example, which is provided by Simon Brown on the C4 model website, or no, I guess on the structurizer website. I will provide the link to this example also in the description of this video. And yeah, you see here this structurizer DSL based or described C4 model, and here's the model definition, and here you see the views. And for example, you can click here on show a structurized DSL diagram, and you get the preview. And that's with the help of this extension, which I recommend before, the C4 DSL extension, which is pretty cool integrated here in Visual Studio Code. Yeah, that's it from the recommendation of the extensions. Yeah, let's come to the structure of our example project. I will go through each of these folders and files and explain you shortly what's the idea behind the folder and its particular files. Yeah, the first on top here is the GitHub and workflow folder, which contains GitHub pages, YAML. This YAML builds or is the integration in the GitHub Actions pipelines. And yeah, with the actions, you can build the documentation and deploy the documentation on GitHub pages. I will later explain here this GitHub pages YAML or the logic behind of it. Then the next one is here, this big documentation folder, and here you have the whole content of your software architecture documentation in it. I start here with the arc42 folder, and this folder contains all the ASCII-doc-based files of the arc42 template. You see here all the 12 chapters, which is provided by the arc42 template. And yeah, each of these files is based in ASCII-doc. And on top here, we have the ADRs, which will be generated by the ADR tools, this utility tooling, which I also will show you later. And then we have here this internet banking system ASCII-doc file, and this file is the entry point to the documentation, and it includes all the chapters of the arc42 folder, or the files of the arc42 folder here, and yeah, combines all the files and provides an entry point here for the software architecture documentation, or the complete software architecture documentation. So here's a small hint: if you plan different slices of your software architecture documentation, probably for different stakeholders, yeah, you can create another file here which points or which includes just specific or stakeholder specific chapters here. Yeah, this is one well-known approach here. Then, as I present you before shortly with the recommendation of the Visual Studio extensions, is here the DSL, the structurizer DSL-based file, which describes the whole C4 model of your software system, contains the model and the views which your will generate based on this C4 model. Yeah, that's it in the documentation folder. Then we have this .adr dir file. This is just the configuration of the ADR tools, where we say where we tell the ADR tools utility where the ADRs should be created. Here, this is in our documentation and ADR tools folder. Then git ignore, it's self-describing. Then the ADR template.md. Unfortunately, the ADRs, or not unfortunately, it comes with markdown-based ADRs. So we have to do two things. First thing is we have to adjust the template, which is, or the default, we have to adjust the default template of this ADR tool, because this template has, in the default version, wrong headers here. The headers are primary headers, and we need it here on the dirt level that it's compatible with the arc42 template. And second, in the build process, we have to transform all our markdown-based RDRs to ASCII-doc. Yeah, then next, the banner. The banner is just for the README here. Then the doc toolchain. We are using the doc toolchain for generating all the stuff. This is the configuration file. Doc toolchain is mainly, I guess, written in Groovy. So it's a Groovy-based configuration. And here the shell script of the doc toolchain wrapper, I guess, or the wrapper script. And of course, the README markdown. Yeah, that's it from the structure. So now I would like to show how we transform the defined view in the structurizer DSL file into plant2ml diagrams or plant2ml files, which are integrated in the arc42 documentation. First, I would like to show you here again the views which are defined. So here we have, for example, a system context diagram here of this internet banking system. Probably it will be rendered here. Yeah, you see here the internet banking system, which are connected to actors and external systems. This is a system context diagram. Then we have here the container diagram, which is probably in arc42 a building block, a part of the building block chapters. Yeah, we have here, can I do it here bigger? Yeah, we have here again the actor, and we zoom in here into the system. The system contains of different containers, like here the web application, single page application, mobile app, API application, and so on. Then if we go deeper, we can create the component diagrams, for example, here for the API application. And yeah, that's the component diagram. So we have context, probably for the context chapter in our 42, or let me check. Yeah, in the chapter 3, context and scope, this is probably the diagram for this chapter 3 here. Then the container diagram, which is I would say a building block visualization, where you probably can put here in chapter 5 building block view as, I would say, level 1 building block view, then level 2 building block view here for each of the containers, the component diagram. Then we have a lot of other diagrams here in it. For example, a dynamic diagram for the runtime scenarios. This diagram is probably something here for the runtime view. Then we have deployment diagrams defined here, how the system runs on development, and here another deployment view for the live deployment. Yeah, and this is probably something here for chapter 7 deployment view. Yeah, now the question is how these diagrams here, which are rendered here in this preview with Structurizer, comes to the arc42 documentation. And the procedure is here simple. If we open, for example, here the context view, we integrate here a plant.uml or reference here plant.uml file, which currently doesn't exist under diagrams, system context.uml for plant.uml, and the same goes here for the legend with the dash key. And yeah, the cool thing here is if we export the structurizer we use here, we get plant.uml files, and here helps us the doc toolchain with the task export structurizer. Small hint here, if you're a Mac user like me and you are using ZShell like me, switch to the bash here, because just the bash supports the Java integration of the doc toolchain. Otherwise, you will you have to use Docker, and yeah, this takes longer for the build here. Yeah, and the cool thing here is we get support from the doc toolchain here, and let me open the readable preview here, and you get here the export structurizer task, which you can run here on bash. I've started it, and now doc toolchain will start, and doc toolchain will open the structurizer, or here this bank DSL file, and interpret it with the structurizer libs, and export these defined views into a plant.uml representation. With the first start, it takes some time because it's here a Java-based Gradle project. So It has to be set up, like you get here this .gradle part, and now you see here the build was successfully, and you get here these diagrams folder with the generated plant2ml files, like for example, this system context diagram, which is referenced here, and you see now the reference is valid, and we can get here directly to the system context diagram where the plant2ml file is defined. Yeah, that's it. Probably one test here. Yeah, and if I open here the preview in AsciiDoc, you see here the help of this AsciiDoc extension, and we get the rendered business context here in the chapter 3 context and scope with this structurized based or C model description here, plant2ml and rendered with AsciiDoc. Pretty cool. Beside of generating the plant2ml files here in diagrams, we have to transform our ADRs. We have some example ADRs here. These 3 example ADRs, these are currently based in Markdown. And as you know, we are using AsciiDoc, so we have to transform all these Markdown files into AsciiDoc. Here in the documentation, you see the comments here, how you can generate or transform these Markdown-based architecture decision records into AsciiDoc. It's pretty simple. It's this command here. Let's try it. This command starts the doc toolchain, the doc toolchain, the export Markdown task, and copy the transformed AsciiDoc files, which are copied into the build /ADRs folder, which is the output folder here of the doc toolchain. You have to copy it afterwards into our ADRs folder. And now you see here, we got some new files beside of the Markdown file, which is under version control because we are using it with the ADR tools utility. We get here this AsciiDoc version of the decision. And as you see here in the arc42 documentation under chapter 9, architecture decision, we include here these decisions as well. Last but not least, we want the complete compiled or created software architecture documentation, different representation. For example, here in HTML, in PDF, or as a microsite. So start here with the HTML representation. This is pretty simple. Doc toolchain helps us here as well with the task generate HTML. So based on our AsciiDoc documentation, doc toolchain will, I guess with the help of AsciiDoctor, generate the HTML representation of our documentation. If it's the first run, it will take some time here, and everything which is generated by the doc toolchain, you get it here in the build, and here you see the HTML5 folder is already prepared. Here we have the task generate HTML. Let's wait a bit. So the build is successful, and now we have here under HTML5, we get the whole documentation here. So you see here the result of the generate HTML task of the doc toolchain. It's a complete arc42 based documentation here with the table of contents on the left side, with the whole structure which arc42 provides. And if we scroll down, we see here the business context, which is the system context diagram of the system context view of the C4 model. If we scroll down, we get the first level building block view here, the container view in C4. Then next, the level 2 here, if we go into a container here, like this API application container, here this one, if we open this and get the white box view of this API application container, we get the component view. Yeah, we have the runtime view here also described with Structurizer. the deployment view to infrastructure levels, deployment life, and yeah, that's it. As second out of the box possibility, we have the task generate PDF, where we easily can generate a PDF representation of our software architecture documentation. I've started this task here, and Doc2Chain does the same, or do the same. In the meantime, it takes the arc42 or arc42 documentation here, and transform it via AsciiDoctor and the AsciiDoctor PDF plugin into a PDF file. Yeah, that's the whole magic behind. This is also pretty cool if something, or if a stakeholder loves PDF files, so you can easily give them a PDF version or a PDF representation of your current software architecture documentation version. And you see here the generate PDF is running, and afterwards, after a successful build, we should get the documentation here in the build folder. Yeah, now the build is successfully. So we have here this PDF folder, and you see here our arc42 based software architecture documentation, sorry, in the format of a PDF with a cool table of content here. It's clickable. You have the image in it. Yeah, everything you need. The last but not least possibility which you can out of the box generate is the so-called microsite. It's it's kind of like of a website which you can generate directly here with the Doc2Chain. And I'll start this procedure. And yeah, it's I would say it's pretty similar to the HTML output, but it has more a website or portal feeling, which gives you more interactive possibilities to present your information about the software architecture documentation of your system. And I guess the intention or the idea is to also to get more information and just about the software architecture documentation more than a microsite of your for your software product for internal purposes. Yeah, that's it. Let's wait here for the build, and afterwards, I guess you get here on the build microsite under output the whole microsite, which you can easily deploy also on an internal web server and make it accessible for the specific stakeholder of your project. So the building comes here to an end, I guess. And afterwards, I will present here it's not successful, and I switch now to the browser. So you see now the build output of this microsite task. And yeah, you see here the microsite, which is pretty configurable. So you can create here a microsite for your whole, I guess, solution or software architecture. And you also see here the possibility to search. You see here the navigation points, which you get out of the box. For example, you get the whole arc42 software architecture documentation here aside, which with feedback possibilities, improvement documentation possibilities or actions. It's more an interactive part where you can give the possibility to interact or to contribute also to your software architecture documentation. For example, here the ADRs, which comes directly from the documentation. Yeah, that's it from it. I hope you enjoyed here the whole journey with this software architecture documentation starter, and I hope it gives you value. If you have any questions or topics or issues or feedback, please contact me. Yeah, thanks.